Okay, my name is Giorgio Riva. I belong to Payday Men's Network. We work with the Global Women's Strike. And I'm here today because we think that the anti-war movement should pay more attention to an enormous refuseniks movement which is going on internationally. Soldiers who refuse to fight and torture and kill and rape. And in this context there is an event in Washington today. In fact it started Thursday and it'll end tomorrow. It's called Winter Soldier. Hundreds of US veterans from the Iraq and Afghanistan war will are being given testimony about what they saw and opposing the war. And it's possible to see it direct on the internet, on the Iraqi Veterans Against the War website. There was a Scottish veteran from the first Gulf War in 1991 who was going on hunger strike because his body was essentially disintegrating. He had osteoporosis, and he started having osteoporosis when he was 23. He had ulcers, he had asthma, and he really went on hunger strike because he wanted an inquiry about the Gulf War syndrome. He was on hunger strike for 40 days, which, given the circumstances of his own body, is quite, he was very tough. And we supported him all along and gave him all the publicity we could, international publicity in fact. The outcome of that, just when we thought that Alex Izet was going to die because he was determined to go on with the hunger strike, he won an inquiry. It was a privately funded inquiry. It was called Inquiry on the Gulf War Illnesses, Independent Inquiry on the Gulf War Illnesses. And Lord Lloyd, former law lord, was chairing it. He was down here in Parliament, next to Parliament in Westminster. And in July, August and September 2004, there was a succession of testimonies by soldiers, international scientists, officers, still serving the army. People were just left, and it was absolutely devastating. The conclusion of the inquiry was the Gulf War syndrome exists. Their proposal, however, was absolutely outrageous. They said that the government should give a one-off payment to these soldiers who were passing their illnesses to their partners and children. Okay, so there is no end in sight of this. They were proposing to give enough payment and goodbye to these 600 people who, well, actually it's 6,000 people who are actually affected by this. If you don't talk numbers, it's not interesting, okay? The average payment, if you divided the sum that they proposed to be allocated, was 500 quid each to people who have cancer, brain damage, post-traumatic stress disorder. Their children, their wives are ill, and they're gonna die, etc. And this is not acceptable.
So let's just get this straight. The British government, after that inquiry, they acknowledged depleted uranium illnesses.
The government has never acknowledged that.
Right.
There have been some cases. Alex is won his case.
They acknowledged a few cases.
No, they did not ever acknowledge anything. The inquiry, which was not a government inquiry, acknowledged that the Gulf War syndrome existed,
okay,
and that it was a cause of the illnesses.
Sure.
They also, and they referred to other causes, apart from depleted uranium. They also said that the plume from a factory of biochemical weapons of Saddam Hussein that the Americans blew up. They blew it up, and then the fallout fell on people in Iraq, including the soldiers. Okay. Then there was tablets that they were supposed to take against the nervine gas, the soldiers were taken not as against the presence of nerve gas, but as they were advised to take the pill anyway. And eventually, and devastating, also the pluribus vaccination. In fact, Alex Izzet never went to Iraq. He was vaccinated, I think, 19 times in the space of 3 days. And other people, like other veterans, have the same experience, and their body is in pieces.
Okay, and so what you're saying is the vaccines they were given were the cause of the problem sometimes?
Also,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably the case is intermingled and nobody knows exactly if it is one thing or the other. All right. But certainly the point was that in that inquiry we pressed for women, children and men from Iraq to testify also, because we thought that, you know, the veterans here will never know how seriously ill they are if these people who live there permanently and are not coming home from anywhere, but live with depleted uranium, we don't know how ill they are. And we lost that. We did not have testimonies from Iraq. Nevertheless, the testimonies of these people were absolutely extraordinary, and really, you know, people were in tears, and I mean, it was amazing. We gave as much publicity as possible. On our website, you see that there are excerpts from that inquiry, or testimonies on various subjects. We translated that into Italian as well. I'm Italian, so I did it. And we publicized it all over Europe because we thought it's no good to approach the kind of way of problem piecemeal, once in France and then you start in England. This is an international problem. Depleted uranium does not distinguish between French soldiers or Italian soldiers or indeed Iraqi civilians.
Yeah. And on the wind, it's come as far as England. It's spread all across Europe. This is according to some studies.
Because also there's been quite a lot of, not as in the same quantity as in Iraq, but certainly in Bosnia and the former Yugoslavia, there's quite a lot of depleted uranium going around there.
Just quickly, I mean, your message for soldiers in these armies, in these illegal wars that want to leave, what's the best way forward for them?
That's a dodgy one, because obviously it's not, once you're in, it's not easy to get to come out. So some are lucky and they let them out, but some are, you know, in this country I think that they actually keep a softly and approach, and they don't publicize the cases that much. We had cases of people going in court-martial and just disappeared. They just we don't even know what happened at the court-martial.
There are hundreds of UK soldiers on the run all around the world.
Of course, you know,
they cannot find them. I think that's the easiest way. You just run.
Yes, you run. The other thing is that the recruiting is going down.
Yeah.
We know that in Scotland, you know, like it's a poor area, like in the Midlands, where they got a lot of recruiting going on in schools and in job centres.
Yeah, sure. Why would anyone want to join the army at this time? I mean, it's just...
That's their problem.
It's,
you know.
People like to think that they're serving a good cause during the army, but you know, on the surface, there are no good causes they're doing at the moment.
It's very clear that... Yeah. And let me tell you, but they're gonna press on this, because to give you just an example, last Sunday in Wood Green, I went shopping in Morrison's, okay, and at the cashier, all 18 cashiers, there was one RAF cadet, a long, at least one, a long line of them, so about 30, helping people with their bags, okay, to fill their bags. I really protested against that, because you know, when I saw soldiers in uniforms, I think of coup d'etat, and that's what, you know, many people in a place like Wood Green are, which is a mixed community in terms of race. They're coming from countries where they've been raped, they've been killed, they've been imprisoned, they've been tortured by armies, by soldiers in uniform, and I'm sure they'll be disturbed to see all 30 of them at the end of every cashier to help them with help them with their bags.